feel like when you watch like YouTube videos and stuff like that, you see everyone with like 12 containers all laid out and like the same meal in all those containers. But I mean, that's a great way, but I do want to discuss like all the different options that I have kind of gone through with trial and error. And I did find like what worked best for me, but I think the important thing to remember is like we all have different lifestyles, and what works for me is not going to necessarily work for you. So I do want to address like different ways you can do it, maybe just give you guys some ideas. Also hear from you of like what you've learned works best for yourself, because that may help another lady who's here today as well. So different ways to meal prep. You can, with the meal plans, you can pick a few meals to completely prep throughout the week. I tried this at first, like I just did a massive bulk prep on Sundays, and that worked best for me to do that. However, I then felt like I was getting tired of eating the same thing throughout the whole entire week. So what I started doing is throwing in some extra, like I'd prep 2 main meals for the whole week from the meal plan that Jazzy gave us. And I think that's also something to note too that's important. The meal plan that Jazzy gives us, you don't have to prep every single item on that meal plan for the whole week. You can choose a couple that work for you and just go with those for the whole entire week. In the beginning, I started off trying to prep every single one, and I had so many ingredients, and I ended up wasting a lot because it was just for me. Like some people here have families, and that may work out really well. Or, you know, different ways of prepping or different access to ingredients or whatever it is to where it can work. But for me personally, I found it best to pick 2 big ones. And then I started getting like, well, I did a lot. I'll get into that in a second. Another way to meal prep is to prep individual ingredients. So like your brown rice, just even like if you're using canned beans, like rinsing them and putting them in a container in the fridge, or like cooking them on the stove if you do that. Potatoes, chopping veggies, like just put those all in separate containers so that throughout the week you can have them already ready and just mix them into some sort of bowl or some type of assortment that'll really expedite your process. And then I think this way is meal prep as well that may work for some people is to, if you like your food just like really fresh and you really struggle with the idea of meal prep, cook your dinner each night and save enough for leftovers the next day. And some people are like, I don't want to have the same meal 2 times in a row. Like you can also save those leftovers for like the day after, you know, like they'll still be okay. And then another way is to prep just 2 times per week, like Sunday and Wednesday, for example. I think the key here is if you're feeling overwhelmed with meal prep right now, like experiment with another way, like try something else out, because the whole point of meal prep is to make life simpler for you. It may feel like, you know, you're putting in a ton of hours, you know, setting aside this huge day to do all this work. But in my opinion, I've learned that if I don't have time for meal prep, then I will not have time later in the week to be cooking my meals every single day. So it is a time saver over it all. It's just all in a bigger chunk at once, which may make it seem, you know, like a lot of time, but it will save you if you get it down. So a couple of tips that I have found to work really well for me is having some fallback options. So once every couple weeks, I will prep a big like crock pot soup, or even like a soup on the stove, or anything really that I'm feeling that freezes well. I'll just stick that whole batch in the freezer in different containers. And I won't have that be like my planned meal prep for the week. I'll just have that as fallback options when I run out of my meal prep meals, or if I'm really just not feeling them. That has been such a game changer for me, because normally I would just end up going like on Uber Eats or, you know, something like that, where it's not as good for me and also more expensive. And then other things that you can do is just like put a bunch of potatoes in the oven and put those in the fridge. They even freeze well too throughout the week. And you can do so much with those. You can add them to bowls, but also like a go-to staple in some of Jazzy's older meal plans. She had this dish, some of the alum here might recognize it. It's like sweet potatoes. Just throw some black beans on them, maybe like some vegan ranch, have a side of greens, and you're good. So that's been a huge fallback for me too. And then veggie burgers. That's the other thing. Like that has been a huge game saver. As long as you have like some tomatoes, lettuce, whatever it is prepped that you can just throw into them. I kind of keep those as like my midweek, like when I'm feeling in a rut with my meal plans, like I'll go to those quick 10-minute freezer meals. Let's see here. I wrote some notes for you guys. Make sure I cover everything. So another thing I want to talk about is smoothie prep. I feel like when we're thinking about meal prepping, we don't, at least in the beginning, I didn't really consider my smoothies because I was like, oh, you just throw everything in a blender and go. But if you were like me, I like to get every minute of sleep in the morning as I can. And so any sort of thing I can do to save my time for the morning, like I am not a morning person. So if you are and you love waking up early, yeah, prepping your smoothies fresh is great. But what I like to do is get like 5 or however many baggies you need to last you through the week. And just take some time during your like Sunday or whatever day it is meal prep, and just, you know, peel your bananas, throw them in each bag, and like scoop out your blueberries or whatever else it may be, and just stick those in the freezer. What I like to do is take one bag out of the freezer each night, put it into the fridge, so it doesn't make it like completely melted. You still get that smoothie texture doing that. Like it's still kind of frozen and when you take it out in the morning. And then just adding some like water or coconut water to that in the blender, blend it all up and go. Or you can take the bag straight out of the freezer, put it in the blender. You may have to use a little more, depending on your blender, of course, like water or coconut water. But that method works just as well too. And then the other method we're talking about is you can blend your smoothie the night before, but certain things, like I think spirulina makes your smoothie like really chunky, and so it kind of changes the texture of it. So that's not something I found to completely work for me. It's still a good smoothie and fine, but Jazzy's idea was like just, you know, blend it for like 10 seconds in the morning and you'll be good to go. So there's a lot of different ways for smoothies too. And I feel like that is something, like smoothies are one of the most important meals on the meal plan. It's something that I hear a lot of us, like, we don't have appetite or we don't have a time in the morning. Like, if you just make it mindless and like so easy for yourself, like I think meal prep is the best way to do that. Like that'll set you up for success. And it's a pretty easy thing to do. Another thing you can do that worked well for me though is just prep it at each night if you don't want to do it all in one day. And then stick it in the fridge overnight, blend it in the morning. So you have a couple different options there. Talking about the actual meal prep, I feel like it is very important to be organized and strategic with it so that you're making the most of your time and also not feeling overwhelmed. Especially if you have like a million different meals going on at once. It's really easy to have like, you know, when you have like 4 burners, the oven going, the rice cooker, like it's a lot. So little tips that have helped me is think about all the ingredients you need, look at your recipes, pull all those ingredients out before you do anything. And then I like to take it a step a little bit further and separate those ingredients per dish, or even per like part of that dish. Like for example, these are the ingredients for the base of this dish. These are the ingredients for the sauce. I'm gonna put them all over here. I know I need to prep these like both in different pans. And that kind of just gives me like a mental visualization of like what I'm doing. So I'm not like looking at my recipe list, scrambling, oh, I need to get that. And there's no surprises like, oh, I forgot something mid prep, which has happened to me before. And that is the worst because then you got to like run to the store. Another thing that I think is really important is looking at the ingredients you have and thinking about which ones are going to take the longest. Like, obviously, I want to get my oven preheated first. If you have like potatoes, you're going to want to get those in first because they take forever to cook in there. You're going to want to get the rice cooking in the rice cooker because that takes a while. And while you're doing all of that or getting all of that ready, while that's cooking, then you can be chopping the veggies and doing like the work that doesn't take as much like cook time to where you're not really needed. You're kind of just waiting on other stuff. So yeah, that's it. It's a lot. There's a lot of different ways. Any questions? Do you guys have anything that like you found works best for you?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
So when I meal prep, I end up eating more food. So like me trying to meal prep for 2 days, I end up eating it in a day and a half. I don't know how to estimate how much I should cook.
So me personally, when I meal prep, I put the meals like pre-prepped and measured out in each container so that I know like this is my allotment for that meal prep. And that's another thing too, like when you're making it becomes hard to measure when you're making a big batch of something. So what I'll do as well, like if I'm making enough rice for like 4 different meals, Jazzy, you can let me know if you have another way, but I just eyeball it and I'm like, okay, this is about 1/4 of the batch that I made. And really what Jazzy looks at is the amount of calories you are totaling out for the whole week. So I think as long as it evens out, like if you didn't measure it to a T for like your 1/4 serving or whatever it is, like it will even out by the end of the week after eating all of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you do make batches, personally, I find it easier to make big batches. Like right now, sitting on my counter is like an entire pot of black beans that are supposed to last me for the next 3 days. So let's say, Jackie, if you're like, I want to make food for the next 2 days, I'm making, this rice. First, determine how many meals is this rice supposed to last you, because you want to measure that out first. Let's say the recipe calls for, a 1/4 cup of dried rice and it's supposed to make 4, then you multiply that by 4. It doesn't matter, like if one day you're like, oh, I'm feeling, extra carby, I'm gonna have a little bit more and then leave myself a little bit less for the next meal, that's okay. Just finish the batch within your 4 meals and divide it up however you want. Don't worry about being like so specific every single time. That type of precision is not necessary. And what I don't want is for your meals to bring you like stress and you're like, oh my gosh, it needs to be perfect. It's not perfect. I had a little bit more of this. You don't need that type of precision with your recipes. So my best bet is like most of the recipes I give you guys, they're for a single serving. So just multiply it by however many meals you want it to last you. And ration it out how you want to. Just finish it within the 3 meals or whatever that you prepped it for. But if you're like, hey, prep this food and I'm still starving and I want to eat more of my preps, then all of you guys listening to this, then we need to talk, because if the calories that are there for you right now are not enough and you're feeling hungry above the calories and it's not just like cravings or that, you just like have a habit of overeating, if it's legit actual hunger, then we need to address it, because you don't want to be hungry. I don't want you to feel hungry. If your body is giving you hunger cues, that's important, and we don't want to ignore that. We need to take that seriously, because many of you guys, you're kicking it into gear with the training plan and you're working out harder than before. It's okay and it's normal for your body to say, hey, I need more food than what I'm used to getting. So don't like ignore your hunger. We need to talk about it. Just send me a message. If we need to jump on the phone and talk about it, we can. But usually we can just tweak them very little, give you a little bit extra, so that way you're not feeling like, oh my gosh, I finished all my preps, I was so hungry today. Okay. who here is using the meal plan template? Okay, Jackie, Morgan. And if you're not on video, you can even just go into the chat and say me. Okay, Courtney said me. Who's not using it? Jazz said she is. Jenny's using. Okay, so pretty much everyone's using it. Andrea 50-50, make my own. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So, one thing that I need in my life is simplicity. Some people really like having like the most delicious meals. They want them to be beautiful and colorful and and that's fine. My main priority is like what can I make in the shortest time that's healthy and that is going to be good for gains. So I just want to let you know that when it comes to prepping, especially if efficiency is for you, less is more. So instead of like, okay, this week I want to make black beans and lentils and I want to make, this special like quinoa tabbouleh recipe, like keep it really simple, really, really simple, and really change up your sauce or change up like one or two of the toppings, leaving the base the same. Because like in my case, even right now, like I just have a big mug of food because I'm like, I don't want to cook this entire complicated recipe. I had like veggies in here, black beans, a brown rice noodle, and then I topped it with like organic pasta sauce and I had a greens juice on the side. So it doesn't have to be complicated, guys. Like if you need something really simple, and right now meal prep is stressing you the heck out, then utilize some of the ideas that Sidney gave you to really make things easy and simple, and don't make yourself feel bad over food or meals. Like we just really have to find the strategy that works best for you. For me, it's just like simplicity and quick. Other people will probably look at my food and be like, that's so boring, I could never live that way. And that's okay. You don't have to. You just have to find what works for you. And it takes a little bit of toying around and playing with it, trying out Sydney's ideas, and understanding what is most important to you. Because some of you guys do have families and you have to prep stuff that's like really good, or maybe the kids won't eat it or your partner won't eat it. So just take into account like what you're trying to accomplish with your meals. Is it simplicity? Is it quickness? Is it taste? Is it, satisfying a family? And then go that route, have that dictate how you meal prep. Hope that makes sense. Any questions on meal prep or on anything else? We'll open it up for Q&A. Jazz, I do stray sometimes though. It's okay to stray. Like the template is there to give you freedom. It's there so that way you can really build out what you like. What you want to be careful of is having meals and recipes that are like so far off and doing that a lot. So like sometimes I may see like food posts and I'm like, wait, where did that recipe come from? Like I don't recognize it, or like it's just not part of like like how I would balance out a recipe. It's okay if you're like craving something, you like could really go for a wrap, fine, but you want your core recipes to be around the recipes that we give you, the meal plans and the meal plan template, because it's designed to give you a really wide variety of macro and micronutrients. If you're eating nothing but like potatoes and spinach, you're missing out on a lot of macro and micronutrients that you need in order to achieve the goals that you want. And that doesn't matter what your goals are, whether you're wanting to lose weight, body recomp, gain muscle, it doesn't matter. You need a colorful variety of food. So you want to be careful just kind of totally doing your own thing. Like that's why you're here, right? You're here to be guided and to be given the answers and to be shown how to do this effectively. So you want to just be careful letting life kind of, have you living reactively. Because I know sometimes we can just get into our own groove and we're like, shoot, I haven't stuck to the meal plan in a week. And who even knows like what's going on with the recipes. One question, do you add flavor to the template? I know it has dressing option, but is it okay to? Oh yes, add as many spices as your heart desires. Definitely, 100%. Salt, pepper, whatever you want. There's even you guys probably get the ads all over social media of the Flavor God seasonings. Most of those are salt free and they taste amazing. Yes, season your food however you choose. One thing to be careful of, many don't track cooking oil. So this is a big one because we're used to just kind of dressing our pan and throwing everything in, and we're only tracking the food, we're not tracking the oil. But oil, 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. So not that oil's bad, and not that calories are bad, not that fat is bad, none of it's bad. But let's say 3 times a day you're cooking with a tablespoon or two of oil, that amounts to like 400 or 500 uncounted calories. So if you're like, shoot, why am I getting these results when I'm working on this? That's why many people don't track oil. So be really careful. In fact, cooking with veggie base, like a veggie broth, is so great. I was very hesitant because I used to like my cooking oil, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't want soggy food, flavorless food. And I switched over to veggie broth. You cannot even tell a difference. It's amazing, especially if you're cooking like green vegetables or like noodly type dishes, anything that needs for you to pan fry, you can do it with a veggie broth, which, yeah, like you can't even tell a difference. And it requires no tracking at all because veggie broth is like 8 calories. So you don't have to worry about that. I don't want this to sound like I am like, oh my gosh, watch out for the calories. It's not like that at all. It's watch out for uncounted calories, because that's when we start to get results that we weren't necessarily planning on. When we have 4, 5, 600 calories that we're not counting, that's a big difference. That will lead to very different results. So you just want to be careful about that. If you are tracking the oil, go ahead, go crazy, do what you want. But use grapeseed or avocado oil because it's better. Any other questions? Any tips for crispy roasted vegetables without oil? I feel like in the oven they come out pretty crispy, and I usually don't use oil on vegetables in the oven. Are you not getting crispy veggies in the oven? But I mean, and I don't want you to feel like you have to go oil free. You don't have to do that. You can definitely use, if you are cooking at high temperatures though, grapeseed oil and avocado oil are best for high temperatures. Because they have a high smoke point. Whereas like your coconut oil, your olive oil, they burn at a certain smoke point and then they become toxic. So that's why I say that. Yeah, extra virgin olive oil, once it reaches, I believe it's like 350 degrees, it'll start to burn and it'll kind of release these like toxins that are, it makes it not a health food anymore once you do that. If you have extra virgin olive oil raw, like you're tossing it with your salad with like some salt, pepper, lemon, it's fine. Another question, when putting dates in smoothies, should they be pitted? 100% they should be pitted. Those pits do not blend. They will stay whole. I ran into something so strange. Yeah, there will be 100 hard pieces in your smoothie. Yeah, definitely pit your dates. Potatoes get squishy in the stove. Yeah, if you guys want a trick, there's this trick for cooking potatoes. It's the bomb, but it's an extra step. So you have to determine how bad you want the potatoes and how bad you want them to be perfect. But if you pre-steam your potatoes, so that way they're not fully cooked, but like maybe 2/3 cooked, steam them just like how you would anytime you're making like a mashed potato or something. Steam them up after they're cubed. If you throw them in whole, it'll just take longer, and then the outside might be soft and the inside might not be cooked. So I recommend maybe cubing them, steaming them for like 5 minutes or so, and then pop them in the already preheated oven. The inside will be so soft and fluffy, and the outside will be perfectly crispy. So good. So, so good, especially if you're making like fries or something. That's the bomb. Sorry, you might hear my dog barking in the background, but okay, so those are really good questions. I am very impressed by your guys' questions. I like to know that yeah, you guys are asking, because when you don't ask any questions, I'm always curious. I'm always worried about you guys. Air fryer, oh yeah, air fryers are awesome. If you have it, then use it for everything and anything, 100%, because you don't even need oil at all for those. Good questions. And on the live training we did on Monday, I was mentioning how amazing instant pots are. I just got one recently. If you guys are like me and you're like, I need something to be fast, I need it to take like no time, I need to be able to make a lot of it, instant pots are going to be like your best friend. I just keep my instant pot on my counter on the keep warm setting, and I make an entire pot of black beans, and they cook in like not even an hour. So usually beans will take you 3, 4 to 6 hours. And with the Instant Pot, it takes 45 minutes to an hour. And And yeah, like you have them all day just sitting warm on your counter. Questions? All right, well then I think we're good to go. Again, if you guys have questions, you can always reach out to us on the messaging. Especially when it comes to meal prep, you can ask Sidne. You even post it in the group. She is very, very good at meal prep. So I'm sure she even has some other tools under her belt that she didn't get to talk about today. But just know if something's not working, don't like stress yourself out or feel like you're having to force it. Like, yes, there is a point where you have to put in the effort, but if it's just like not meshing well, then let's talk about it and figure out what would be better for you so that way you can get the nutrients that you need from your food and go kick ass in the gym. All right, guys? All right, well then you guys have an awesome day. I will see you later. Thank you, Sidne.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.